الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد صلاة تخرجنا بها من أوحال الوهم وتوضحنا ما أشكل حتى يفهم إنك تعلم ولا نعلم وأنت علام الغيوب. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Mr. Zaid, well, you didn't do those 10 promised paradise. Have you done them?
Yeah.
Go on.
Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu, Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu,
Yeah.
Ali radiallahu
Yep,
anhu,
so we got the 4.
Abdurrahman ibn Auf,
Fantastic. 5.
Zayd ibn Abi Waqas,
Zayd ibn Abi Waqas.
yeah,
Sa'd. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqas. Go on.
Jabir, so
You got 7. You got 3 to
Jabir
go.
Abi Waqas,
Does Dad know?
no.
Go on, I'm going to put Dad on the spot now.
Abu Ubaidah.
Yeah, Abu Ubaidah. So we've got 2 more to go.
Is it Blackburn?
The father, Zubayr ibn Awwam.
Oh, okay.
And then you've got the last one to go. It's the most obscure one. Talha.
Is it Talha?
No, but you've got Talha in there.
No.
Huh?
I think it was 8.
Oh, did I count?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Talha ibn Ubaydillah, and the last one.
He told us about this kid. He told me.
Sa'id ibn Zayd.
Oh yeah, Sa'id ibn Zayd.
So they're the 10. And what's interesting about these 10 is that an overwhelming majority of them were incredibly young when they accepted Islam. So that's going to be relevant to who we talk about now.
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Because we went home, we discussed that, and then obviously the women at home say, what about the daughter of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Didn't he tell her? And what about the wives of Prophet? And then Maryam, and they were coming, but Khadija, and then so why are they not counted in there?
There's a famous hadith where the Prophet ﷺ highlights these 10 specifically. But obviously that's not to say, because Abdullah ibn Talidi is a famous Moroccan scholar, still alive actually, is the only great muhaddith of Morocco that I've heard of that's left. He composed a book of those who were promised paradise. So that when he says the Prophet says those 10 are promised, that doesn't mean, because Bilal, for example, he said I heard his footsteps. What about Zayd ibn Haritha? And so the only reason is because that's a very famous hadith where actually Sa'id ibn Zayd himself narrates these 10, and it's for a specific reason in the context for him to highlight these people. Because maybe Allah knows best. These were people that were involved in the shura when the Prophet, when they were selecting the leader. Maybe Allah knows best. Maybe that's the context. Because they say that Ubaidah, you've been to Jordan, haven't you? He's buried there. Abu Ubaidah. They say if Umar said if he had been alive, he would have been the Khalifa after me. But he passed away before. He died in the plague that hit Sham at that time, where he passed away. And a lot of those Sahaba that buried in Jordan is because of the plague they passed away. You've got Mu'adh ibn Jabal. Mu'adh ibn Jabal and Abu Ubaidah are very, very close to one another. They were made ikha, the Prophet made the ikha between them. And so they're both buried in that area of Jordan. And so these people are mentioned specifically, I think, because it was to do with leadership and to be voted in as well. They say, what interesting thing, they say, why did Sa'id ibn Zayd, who narrates this hadith, why was he not in the shura for selecting a leader? They say Umar didn't want him in there because he was related to him. He was his cousin, and so Umar didn't want anyone related to him involved in it. He didn't want to get them. He says one of us in our tribe is enough for politics, and so that's why he's not. And he doesn't even mention himself in the hadith. And then they prod him basically. Who's the 10th? And then he humbly says myself. So we go. An Abi Musa Abdullah ibn Qais al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu قال. So this hadith is related from Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, famous Sahabi. And I just thought, we don't usually know too much about him, so I thought it'd be interesting just to have a quick look at him. His lineage goes back to al-Ash'ar, and why why was he called al-Ash'ar? Ash'ar means to be very hairy, which is a very strange name to call. They said when his mother gave birth to him, he was covered in hair. So it's not just the Pakistanis. There's others as well. So who else? Excuse me, apologies to the Pakistanis. Qadima Abu Musa, so he goes back to that lineage, and obviously we have the famous scholar Abu that formed the Ash'ari school. It comes from that. He comes from his lineage. So Ash'ar was a famous tribe that goes back to this man. قدم أبو موسى رضي الله عنه مكة على النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قبل الهجرة. What's interesting about Abu Musa, he's from Yemen, and he came to Medina before, he came to Mecca, before the Prophet ﷺ has made hijrah. فأسلم, he accepted Islam. ثم هاجر, and then he performed hijrah. وقدم المدينة مع جعفر وأصحاب السفينة. So what he did basically, he accepted Islam. There was a number of Yemenis that came to the Prophet ﷺ. One of them, when the Prophet ﷺ was in Mecca, he was one of them, and one of the most famous of them is Tufail ibn Amr Dawsi. Tufail ibn Amr, you're probably thinking, well, he's not famous, I've never heard of Tufail ibn Amr. You will when I tell you the story. He was the one when he came to Mecca, the Quraysh said, don't listen, and so he put cotton in his ears, and he came from Daws, and his tribe was where Abu Hurairah was from as well. And so he went back to his people, and there's a famous story about him. I don't want to go on to all sorts of tangents today. So, but he basically, there was a number of Yemenis that came in the time of the Meccan period. They accepted Islam, went back to the people and spread their message. So Abu Musa, he was one of them as well. And he decided to make hijrah with his tribe, and they took a boat, but they came to on the way, the boat, they took them, so they went from Yemen, if you can imagine it, and they're coming round and up, and so they stopped off in Habasha, Ethiopia, and Ja'far radiallahu anhu and the Sahaba, they were still there in Ethiopia, and so they actually came together. So, and they Khaybar, so we're talking about his 5th year Khaybar, I don't know, something like that in my mind. But so in the 5th year they meet with the Prophet after the Battle of Khaybar. So Abu Hurairah was with them as well, so the Yemenis from there. وقدم المدينة مع جعفر وأصحاب السفينة بعد خيبر وأسهم لهم منها كمن حضرها وقال لهم أهل السفينة هجرة. So it says that the people of the boat, they'd have 2 hijras. They hijrah to Ethiopia and they have hijrah, and they say he got that reward even though they never stayed in Ethiopia. They get that reward just by being with them. They get the reward of 2 hijras, which is a very, very high station. وكان لأبي موسى ثلاثة, but if we look at Abu Musa, it says he's got 3 hijras. He made hijrah to Mecca, then to Habasha, it says, then to Medina. So he's got a very high station. وَاللَّهُ عَلَى زُبَيْدِ وَعَدْنِ وَالسَّاحِلِ الْيَمَنِ وَكَانَ يُكْرَمُ وَيُبَجْ, and he was very highly respected. And the Prophet ﷺ said about him, he was given a mizmar from Mazamir Ali Dawood. He was given a flute, if that's the right word, or a pipe from the pipes of the family of David, i.e. he had a very beautiful voice. Because if you think about the reed, when it's played, what does it do? It soothes the soul, doesn't it? That sound, if you think about it, it's very haunting. And so what we take from this is that when the Qur'an is recited, it's supposed to be recited in like a haunting voice.
It's a metaphor.
Huh? Yeah, it's a metaphor.
He's using a metaphor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's supposed to be the voice, the most powerful voices are those that haunt the soul, as if they're drawing that soul in and they feel stirred by it. And so that's how the Qur'an should be recited. And the Prophet ﷺ said, recite the Qur'an in a sad voice. So you can imagine, you can get an idea of what that's supposed to be like now. You know, like the flute when it's playing, it's like that haunting sound that stirs the soul, the heart and the chest. وقد ذكر جملة من أحوال من باب for the incidents I've mentioned. So he mentions now, what's really interesting about the people of Yemen, who obviously got Abu Hurairah, who rated more hadith than any other Sahabi, even though he came in the 5th year. So he spent about 4 years with the Prophet ﷺ. And Abu Musa is another one. He relates 360 hadith. So quite a number. Even though he was only in the last 4 years. But we've got to realise as well, those last 4 years, this is where there's stability. After Khaybar, that was stability with the Muslims. And it's interesting, someone says, why did the Prophet ﷺ send all those Sahaba to Ethiopia? We usually have the notion they were sent because there was persecution in Mecca. and they went there. But when you look at the individuals that went to Ethiopia, a lot of them you think, well, hang on a minute, why are they going? They're not going to get persecuted. Who? Like Uthman, he went on the first hijrah. Why not? He's one of the most respected. He was from Bani Umayyah. He was from Abu Sufyan's clan. He didn't have any risk of that. The Prophet was close as his daughters, and they say one of the reasons they went there wasn't just because of persecution. That wasn't one of the main reasons. I mean, there was a factor, but one of it was also to establish a base in Ethiopia, just in case they needed it to establish the religion. So initially, obviously, when he first sent them, they had no idea that they were going to be going to Medina, to Yathrib. So that was his first port of call, and that's why the Quraysh was so concerned about them leaving there, because it might spread there, and they get support from the Ethiopians, and then come and attack the Quraysh. So they were properly scared about that. The other factor was that why, when the Prophet arrived in Medina, did he not call them straight away? They stayed for another 5 years after that. And why was it they came back after the Battle of Khaybar? They say after the Battle of Khaybar, that was the Prophet now knew that he would be successful in Yathrib. Like all the major challenges was completely removed. After the Battle of the Trench, the Quraysh were no longer a risk, because the whole of all these Arab tribes were attacking Medina at one time, and they failed. Now they were protected because they knew they wouldn't try that again. The Jews now were defeated at Khaybar, so they knew that they were no longer a risk. Now they knew that basically the Prophet was established in Medina and it would be a successful state. There was no longer need for them to be in Medina. But whilst they weren't sure, they were keeping Muslims in Ethiopia just in case that could be their second place of hijrah. So that's one of the things that the Seerah doesn't really mention these things. And I used to think about it for ages why that was the case. So it wasn't just about because of persecution. And so he says in this hadith, anyway, قال سئل رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Messenger of Allah, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, was asked about a man عن الرجل, a man يقاتل شجاعة, that fights out of courage. So the ويقاتل حمية, or, so the wow here meaning or, so we're saying wow and he does this, or it could mean he does all of these things together. So he fights out of courage, or he fights hamiyatan. Hamiyatan means, it comes from the word hama yahni, which means to protect. So the only reason you are fighting is to protect the honour of your tribe. So, like for example, like you've got your khandan, basically, is that how you pronounce it?
Khandan.
Was it?
Khandan.
Khandan. You've got your khandan, and basically you're standing up for your family, even whether they're right or wrong. That's what hamiyya is, basically. That, and a classic example in our communities is there's, the husband and wife fall out, and what happens? Both families, who do they support? They support the spouse, whether he's right or wrong, or she's right or wrong, because they're their family. And so that's hamiyya, basically. You don't actually, you're not standing up because for the truth. You're standing up simply because you're defending your person. And so he was asked about that, someone who fights hamiyatan.
Is hamiyatan same from himya? Or is that a different word?
Himya, yeah, himya is a diet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
how do you know that word? That's quite an obscure word.
Because you got himya, when you talk about a medicine, you withdraw something before you give the medicine.
So himya is to protect yourself, the idea is.
Himya?
Yeah.
So, and from the hamiyatun, how is that?
Hamaya, so himya.
Himya.
And it's hamiyya.
Hamiyya. So that both mean protection.
It comes from the root to protect. And hima comes from to go, like we talk about the hima of Allah, which is his kingdom, like the parameters of his kingdom. The famous hadith about the one who walks into the hima of another person. He lets his animals graze in the hima. So the idea is that, and it is like hovering around like the parameters and stuff like that. And so you're guarding your space. Like someone's, like back home, your land, someone's trying to camp, trespass on my land. That sort of idea. That's what's hamiyya. All these kind of.
Right.
So you get the idea.
It's the same thing with the family, then protecting their own.
Yeah, how someone step on my family. That sort of, it's all emotional. There's you're not thinking before you're. No, we've got to stand right. We've got to stand up for the cause, and we're going to prove them. That's the idea of hamiyya here. وَيُقَاتِلُ رِيَاءً, or he fights in order for people to see. So here I am doing this, do you see me? That's the idea of riya. Riya, the idea is to be like a ru'ya, to see something that is coming to you. So like nadhar, which is another word which we get nazar from. It means to do that. Nadhar means to really contemplate, you're really trying to rack your brain. Ru'ya is just really observing something coming from you. So riya is like, are you observing? That's the idea of riya. Like, do you see me right here? With my selfie. Now it's gone to other extremes now. He says so someone fights. Well, we could say obviously this is general, obviously specific this case, but someone that doesn't act those. So I'm doing it to show that I'm courageous, okay, which is an element of showing off as well. And so to see that I've got this, or to do it in order to stand up and defend my tribe, my khandan. Is that pronounced correctly? Okay. And then he fights in order for people to be onlooking, seeing him. He says, أَيُّ ذَلِكَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, which of those is for the sake of Allah? فَقَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ, and this is beautiful, look at the way the Prophet ﷺ does this. He says, مَنْ قَاتَلَ لِتَكُونَ كَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ الْعُلْيَا هِيَ الْعُلْيَا فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. He didn't say none of them. So, which is really interesting in terms of teaching. He doesn't make, because these things are incredibly important to Arabs. We've got to understand the climate. That's everything. So he doesn't. This Arab, that's all his reference is. I'm either doing it like this, I'm doing like that, I'm doing like this. There's no other. You don't fight for any other reason. And so the Prophet ﷺ, he he's changing his perspective. And this is what's the most profound teachers are people that just can flip people's perceptions of things completely. And so in the most unexpected ways. And so you don't always answer the question. Like someone said here's a classic example this week I heard. This person says, this guy's having an argument with his wife. And his wife, she wants to travel to Pakistan for 2 weeks to see it's a wedding or whatever, for a sister or something. And he says, I'm her husband, and I rule the roost. And she has to listen to me. By Islam, so he comes to the scholar and he says to the scholar, what's the rights a husband has over a wife?
It's loaded.
So he says, and he went, so the scholar said to him, okay, do you want to sleep on the couch for 2 weeks? Or do you want to sleep alone for 2 weeks? Or do you want to sleep alone for 2 years? That's your choice. Your wife's going to do it, whatever. It's not the legal issues that are out the window here now. Just because you're right, is that going to make would you rather be happy or right here? You've got to deal with your circumstances, and the law's not going to help you in this situation. So he said, would you like to be on the bed by your own for 2 weeks, where she's away in Pakistan, or do you want to be 2 years? And so that's your choice. And so you've got to, and we said marriage and all relationships are about how, I call it like surfing a wave. You want to know how to harness it. It's not about, if you come down like that in relationships, it does not work, ever. Okay, and so because, and it doesn't even us psychologically when we deal with ourselves. If we tell ourselves that the emotions, you're not having that emotion, what does the emotion do? It says, okay, I'll keep quiet for a bit, and I'm going to just roar up with, vicious energy another time when you least expect it. And so emotions can't be controlled that way. Emotions, you have to sit with them and be with them, and then they go. And that if we can understand that in our relationships with ourselves, then once you understand how to deal with your own emotions like that, that emotion, like Rumi says, a beautiful thing, that he says emotions, positive and negative, it's like a guest coming to you. You have to welcome it, but know that it's only going to stay for 3 days and then it will pass on. And he said, so you have to honour it and host it. And so if I have a negative emotion, anger, you just sense it with your sensation as a sensation, not try to rationalise it, be with it, let it be there. And when you actually harness it and allow it to be there, and and it's present, it eventually just dissipates. And once we know how to do that with our own negative emotions, we can deal with anyone else's negative emotions. But if we treat people like we treat because the way you treat yourself is the way you treat other people. If you're a person that says, no, I don't, no, I'm not scared, no, I'm not angry, no, I'm not, and you just suppress it, what happens to it? Either you can't control it, or you manage to suppress it, and it just basically explodes on other people. And so once you can control it in yourself in a way and filter it out in a positive way, then you'll find that you can be very, very diplomatic in all your interactions with the other people as well. And so he says, so the Prophet ﷺ says, no, he says, whoever fights for the word of Allah. Now the word of Allah means Islam, basically. But, you know, that basically, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, Ashhadu la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. He's going to be dominant. He's going to be prevail on it. He says, whoever has that purpose, I'm doing this for Allah. I'm doing this to manifest the religion of Allah. Hiya al-ulya, meant to put it that it is, and he says hiya al-ulya, meaning it alone is the highest. So when he's dealing with this situation, he says, how can I channel everything I'm doing whereby it's going to bring about greatness for the religion? Okay, and we can do it in our own lives. How can I channel my child, so that he's going to love the religion and he's going to be able to carry that religion on in the best of ways? So, you know, that's your thoughts about everything. How can I manage this where it's going to be good for people and it's going to endear them to Islam? And so, you know, the fanatic says, we're going to assert Islam, so it's the highest. But they're not doing it, they're destroying Islam through the image. But who can be, you know, in our day and age, it's about who can interact with people in the most beautiful ways. That's the way that religion is highest. And so that's always at the back of our mind, and it's got nothing to do with our own personal gain in this. We're ready to step back if we need to. We don't need to be the leader. We don't need to step in there and assert ourselves if it's not the right thing to do. Then that is for the sake of Allah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. آمنا رسول ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكن من الخاسرين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Thank you very much.